Act 1, Rubber Room. A former school teacher named Jeremy Garrett decided to make a movie about one of the things the school system puts his colleagues through. Something that seemed like terrible mismanagement to him in the New York City public schools where he worked. Jeremy had heard about teachers who were removed from their classrooms and sent to a place that everybody calls the Rubber Room. Like, for example, this teacher that he interviewed, who did not want his name used, who was having personality conflicts with the principal. And the principal suggested that he could be reassigned elsewhere. It sounded great to the teacher. And then for the next few days, instead of going to school, he went to this room in a Department of Education building.
It's kind of embarrassing. The first 2 days, as I'm sitting down there, I was naive enough to say to the secretary, "About what time do you think I'll be meeting with somebody?" And she's like, "Well, you're just going to sit there until you do meet with somebody." And then at the end of the second day, I'm like, this is crazy. I mean, I have an after-school Regents prep program to help the kids with the Regents exam. I'm like, this is nuts. I mean, these kids have to take a Regents exam in like a week away, and then eventually the light goes on over your head as you start, like meeting other people that are sitting there too, and you realize, all right, this is going to be a long-term kind of thing.
This is the Rubber Room. Some teachers are put there because they're accused of something, like putting their hands on a kid, where the school would want them out of the classroom while it investigates and determines guilt or innocence. But many of the teachers are just there for things like insubordination, unsatisfactory performance. And some teachers don't know why they're there. And instead of finding them guilty and firing them, or finding them innocent and returning them to the classroom, the New York schools just hold them, sometimes for years, doing nothing. Nothing, all day long, nothing, in these big rooms.
The environment has a culture all its own. And when you're there long enough, like I was there for a year, when you're there long enough, you see the stages of the culture. New people sit there and are very quiet and say nothing to anybody under any circumstances. And then a couple weeks go by, they realize, okay, I guess I'm going to be here for a while. I might as well start getting relaxed. A lot of people come in with suit and tie because they figure they're going to meet with somebody immediately and then get back into the classroom because they think this whole thing's a joke. And what am I here for in the first place? So once it dawns on them that you're going to be here for a while, then they start to loosen up. They don't dress as nice. They realize, I'm going to be comfortable because I'm going to be sitting down in a room for 6 hours. Then on stage 3, you start opening up, you start talking to people, you start interacting. What do you like? Oh, I like doing crossword puzzles. And, you start building bonds with people.
This guy spent a full year in the Rubber Room, and then he was fired without any formal charges. At any given time, there are as many as a dozen or so Rubber Rooms around the city of New York, in all 5 boroughs, holding as many as 700 or 800 teachers. The teachers show up every day, all day, and they're paid their full salaries, meaning taxpayers are putting out tens of millions of dollars for this every year. Well, this teacher's film about the Rubber Room made us wonder more about what life is like inside the Rubber Room, and with the filmmaker's permission, we asked the team at Radio Diaries, Joe Richmond, Samara Freemark, and Ana Yancy Diaz-Cortez, to go out and do a radio version of the story. Here it is.
My name is Yago Kira. I'm 32 years old. I was an English teacher in the Bronx for 3 years.
My name is Grace Colon. I've been a teacher in New York City for 16 years. I'm starting my 2nd year in the Rubber Room.
My name is Jonathan. I was a teacher in the New York City public school system for 1 month and in the Rubber Room for 4 months. Yeah, I spent much longer in the Rubber Room than I did in the classroom.
I was under a lot of stress at work. I was 3 months into teaching, and I rolled into work that day. It was 2 days after my 29th birthday, and I was going from group to group, helping them out if they had answers with the prompts, things like that. And I'm sitting down with one particular group, and they're all speaking really loudly, and I'd not paid attention. And the classroom had turned into a chaos. The next thing I know, I'm screaming, I'm cursing, I am basically unhinged. And I picked up a chair and I threw it at a blackboard. And I didn't really get a lot of torque on it. I didn't really release it like I wish I could have. And it, bounced off the wall, and on the way down nicked a student. I then left the classroom. I just couldn't believe what I had done. Went and splashed cold water on my neck. I just tried to assess just what I had done. I remember going back into the classroom, and to them it was, look at it objectively. To them, it must have been not fun per se, but hugely entertaining to see an adult, someone in a position of power, completely lose their And then the next day, I'm taken out of the classroom and reassigned.
My principal called me into the office just before Christmas 2006. She had a paper, and she told me that I am being reassigned to reassignment center. And I'm asking, what does this mean? What does reassignment center mean? Somebody looked at me and said, well, you're in the rubber room.
I said the word in the hallway of my school in a conversation with another teacher, and unbeknownst to me, there was an open door nearby, and a classroom of 8th graders heard me. I knew that I was going to be in trouble. The principal kind of pulled me aside on my way to my classroom and charged me with verbal abuse of a child. It's child abuse, verbal abuse. So she literally accused me of abusing a child by accidentally using a single 4-letter word. And I had no idea. At that moment, I would never see my students again. I had no idea.
When I did go to the so-called reassignment center, you walk into a typical city office, almost like either welfare office, food stamp office, people walking around, trying to look busy, not making eye contact. You start thinking, where are you?
And there's about 8 to 10 rooms. In every room, there's about 10 people. And space is at a premium.
I mean, you had the black corner, you had the Hispanic corner, you had the few white people that were scared to death. And so you have to make a quick decision because everybody else is sort of looking you, sizing you up. Oh, where do I go?
My first day there, I went in and I reported to the supervisor in charge. She said, well, go find yourself a chair, but be careful because people are territorial. And in fact, fights have broken out over chairs. And I thought to myself, what are you talking about? Fights breaking out among teachers over chairs. And I went and I saw the first open seat I saw. I went and I sat down in it and I opened up my book and the person next to me said, you can't sit there. That's blah, blah, blah seat. And I said, well, where's blah, blah, blah? They said, well, he didn't come in because it's Friday and he wanted the 3-day weekend. And I said, well, when he comes in, we could talk about it then. So she got up and left the room, and a minute later she came back and she said, I found you a seat. I got you a seat. You'll like it better there. I can see you like to read. It's a quieter room. So I thought, oh, that's, a friendly thing to do. And she went and took me in the other room, and she'd asked my name. And so she went in there and said, everybody, this is Jonathan. And she went around the room, and she introduced me to everyone in the room. She said, and here's your chair. And sure enough, there was an empty chair. And then she left. And I went and I sat down, and the woman a couple of chairs away said, you can't sit there. That's blah, blah, blah seat.